Welcome to A Brief History Mystery. This week we're talking about disclosure, of course, because that's all anyone's talking about, even presidents. So, but before we get started, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Really helps us out. And you can come and join us also on the Mystery Machine Facebook page. The link is in the description. And you can even join the channel and give us money if you want to. So there's lots of little perks you can get. You get shout outs on the channel. You can even come on if you wanted to pay a silly amount of money a month. You can even dictate what things we talk about, as long as it's reasonable within what YouTube will let us talk about and, decency. Cool. So I think it's been a mad week for disclosure, man.
Hasn't it just? Yeah, interesting.
It's been freaking crazy. So we've got this Pentagon report coming out in like a month, and everyone's sort of been arguing backwards and forwards. Oh, what's it really going to say? Are they even going to tell us what's in it? And we've got a live show on Saturday the 28th with a fellow channel. We're going to discuss it in more detail. But it's just been crazy. But now even President Obama has come out and basically said UFOs are real.
But what is true, and I'm actually being serious here, is that there's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern. And so, I think that people still take seriously trying to investigate and figure out what that is. But I have nothing to report to you today.
Okay.
He didn't say a huge amount. He's very careful with his words and very elongated sentences, shall we say, and didn't really reveal too much. But what pretty much he said that there are metallic objects that we've tracked, performing incredible maneuvers, unusual trajectories. Couldn't find the phrase he was looking for, which was defying inertial physics in some kind of different propulsion system. Is probably the way I would have phrased it.
But he did admit that the military have tracked UFOs, and that they don't. I would equate that to mean then that they don't know what they are. The U.S. military does not know these aircraft.
Exactly. So, UFOs or UAPs. Yeah. So unknown. Yeah. Exactly.
So that way, can we immediately eliminate man-made vehicles, exotic aircraft, exotic experimental aircraft? Can we?
No. Probably not,
because they wouldn't be told.
Again, it'd be too compartmentalised. I don't think he'd be privy to that information. If you think of all the defence contractors in Area 51, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, the likes of them, that have had billions of dollars of taxpayers' money for the development of these, technologies,
secret projects and things. Yeah,
they're all private companies. They don't have to disclose anything. That's why they've outsourced it to private companies. So I really don't think the president's going to get a phone call when he gets into power from, the CEOs of all of those big defence contractors, and they're going to brief him. I just don't think that's going to happen. What I do think has happened is he's probably been privy to some Pentagon reports about military jets being scrambled and tracking them. That's what he has been allowed to have access to because he is the president.
The thing is, people talk a lot about when we put videos on before about disclosure, we get a lot of comments saying, "Oh, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. They're never going to tell us anything." But then we get other comments saying that disclosure's already happened. We had a disclosure project, Stephen Gray, 20 years ago, and they told you everything. You don't need to know any more than that. And
that is kind of true. There was a lot of credible witnesses with incredible stories that you couldn't really write off. All 400 of the initial ones, and since then I think he's even built it kept building, didn't it? I don't think it stopped at like those 400. I think it went into the thousands.
Yeah, but so a lot of the comments we get are like, we don't need the US government to give us disclosure, like we're not children. Do we really need the government to tell us what we already know? But I would argue the American government has got the biggest intelligence gathering system the world has ever seen. Right, they got more spy planes, got more spy satellites, they got more intelligence gathering. They force other countries to hand over their intelligence from all over the world. If something's going on, I want to know what the American government know. I want to know what they've imaged. Because if we can physically see UFOs, then we can physically camera them. We can physically camera them. That's a terrible way of putting it. We can physically take pictures of them, images. And then if there is a sighting somewhere, the Americans are going to go like, what spy satellite imagery do we have of that area? And they can backtrack through and see what they've got. And they just imagine the stuff that we think we know. And I will argue that anybody that says aliens are definitely, unless they've actually seen a UFO themselves and basically ET came down and landed, you don't know for 100% that is alien technology. The Americans might. Yeah. So do you actually think then it's got to a point where the president brings in the Joint Chiefs and asks a direct question? What did Lieutenant Commander Fravor actually see? If you've seen him on the telly or whatever, Trump would have seen him on Fox News and would have directly asked, what did he see? Do you actually think the Joint Chiefs would lie?
Right. The Joint Chiefs wouldn't even know. I don't think.
Now, so you think actually the head of each individual armed service, so head of the Navy, head of the Air Force, wouldn't be read in on that intelligence? They wouldn't. But the budget for where the money goes to fund these projects, do you honestly think they wouldn't know? If at the end of the day, if the Joint Chief, if the head of the Navy looks at his budget and goes, there's a 30 billion quid hole in my budget, where is that money? That he wouldn't know, that somebody lower than him would go, you don't have permission to know that.
They're like the societies like the Freemasons, where being a Mason means more to them than anything else, and then quite often you see Masons get other Masons elected to high positions of power. In society. Maybe it's a bit like that. When you're part of the Majestic 12, you're sworn into the cosmic secret knowledge. That means more to you than anything else. So yes, then they comfortably just sit there and lie to the president, who is just a temporary employee. You're going to outrun the president probably. You'll still probably be the head of the army under the next presidency.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the rumor goes that the theory goes that actually it was an ex-president. Was it a Truman? I'm going to forget now. Who actually signed in an executive order that basically, like you said, created the Majestic 12 and created this system after Roswell. And so they think. So would it simply be that the president comes in and goes, right, what's going on, and the Joint Chief just says that's Majestic 12 clearance sort of thing, or that comes under Bullet, and we can't say. And then that's the end of it. They say that's the law from Mr. President. We can't tell you.
Congress, they even openly admit that with these black projects, they have no oversight. Nothing is. There is none.
I mean, that's the funding thing. So I mean that I actually believe. Right? At the end of the day, the American government decides how their budgets are recorded, sort of thing. They set up the systems, don't they? So if you set up the system intentionally to ensure that a certain pot of money is hidden, then you just set the system up that way, don't you? You put it in as admin fees or something. You like, and that money disappears. So in that case, the Joint Chief might not know where that money's going. Billing.
It's very easy to fictitiously bill for hardware that doesn't exist or software that you.
Particularly when you set up the system, Can things be classified from the president? Because I would argue, but if that's where the system's set up.
I don't know. Can they? Is in American law, is there an order, executive order that stops stuff being classified from the president or not?
Well, we wouldn't necessarily know, would we? I mean, the president might literally be told this is something you can't discuss, and that's it. And at the end of the day, you're president. You're going to be you're going to follow the law, aren't you? You're going to say that's the thing. I think Obama has talked about aliens before, and he's refused to say. He's just joked about it. And I can't talk about that, and I like because I can talk about it then, but we'd have to have you killed. So I think, joke. Now, after everything that's gone on, he's actually said. He's said a bit more than he has in the past. So he's actually now saying...
Yeah, because the Pentagon released those 3 UAP videos. So he can just be referring to those. He doesn't have to be referring to anything that's still classified from when he was in office.
But that's my point then, is he's allowed to say a bit more. So that would then suggest that the president isn't allowed to do and say what he wants.
No.
There are controls in place. I mean, that's not just about national security. Clinton seems to be a big believer in UAPs. He's and Hillary's talked about it. We went in, we asked, we were basically told no. So that would suggest that the president hasn't got total authority.
The president's just a puppet of the rich and wealthy that really run all the big corporations, those defense. I'd rather have a meeting, with the CEOs of the big, the top 5 defense contractors than I would have a meeting with the Joint Chiefs to find out what's going on. If it was a truthful meeting. I think they'd have far more to tell you than the Joint Chiefs would.
I think that's a good point. Yeah. Talk to the people that would actually know and would actually be involved, rather than the people that head of these organizations that might not know anything. Biden was asked directly about it and refused to answer and walked away.
That's because he's the current president. He'd probably talk about it once he's finished this term, if he makes it, or two terms. If he makes it, he might talk about it in his later years, but probably not, because he I don't know.
He's 103 years old now, mate.
Another 8 years, and then like another couple of years after that, it'd be 10 years before, if he's in 2 terms, it'd be 10 years before he could talk about anything. Probably. They don't seem to want declassified. They're not going to spoil the status quo when they've just got the job they've been trying to achieve their whole life. Yeah. But what is interesting, though, is yes, a lot of presidents believe in UFOs, but a lot of presidents have gone into the presidency saying, I'm going to find out what we know and tell you all. And then strangely enough, all of the ones that have said that don't. That's because either one, they're not briefed on it, or two, they are briefed on it, and there's some such incredible stuff in there that I think they're not allowed to repeat it. I don't think they're allowed. I think there'll be other things in place. So the other big thing we get when we talk about disclosure on this channel is we get told a lot, or we get a lot of comments saying it's not going to happen. We've been waiting for it for 50 years. It's never going to happen. And it's stupid to even say it could. The events of the last 6 months, 12 months, the Pentagon has never admitted anything like what they've done in the last 12 months. They have never admitted that there have been sightings of UFOs and that they're credible. Even under, when they released the reports on previous investigations into UFOs, like Blue Book things, they've always said mostly it's explainable. There's a couple of things we don't really know what they are, but they're not a threat. And, if we looked into it a bit more, we'd probably be able to explain it. But, there's only so many resources we can put into these things. The last 12 months, they've admitted and released video on, they didn't release the video, did they? Sorry. They've admitted the video showing unidentified flying objects were genuine and that they don't know what they are. And they were all relatively recent videos, weren't they?
Yeah, all in the last 5 years.
Right. So imagine what they've got going back decades before that then, if they've now released that. It's not like they've just started tracking them. They've been doing this the whole time since World War II.
You could argue a lot of their intelligence network might be aimed at this. There might be, obviously it's Russia and China is the main threats, but how much of our intelligence setup might be to sort of monitor these sorts of things, and UFOs, we don't know. A lot of our satellite imagery might be more aimed at that. I mean, America has a lot of satellites aimed at America. Why? It's, maybe it's to track things like this.
I do think that there is some element to that Brookings report, and then deciding that if they do find artifacts of alien civilizations on the moon or Mars, or when we're exploring the solar system, that they keep it from the public because it'd shatter the current worldview and change everything. And you can kind of, if the government does openly give us American government give you full disclosure and say, we've been lying, we've reverse engineered these craft, we crashed in the 40s and 50s, and we've got anti-gravity propulsion, and we've got free energy, and it destroys the whole fossil fuel industry overnight. That's going to create turmoil in all the economies globally. Then you've also got to think about then as well that thing we've said before about security. So the government basically keeps getting you to give away your freedoms, doesn't it, for the false idea of being more secure. But but then when the government admits that, there are aliens, they have been flying here, some have crashed, we have recovered bodies, we know some things about some of the races, some of them seem benevolent, some of them seem malevolent.
We can't
stop them. Then everybody who goes, so imagine policing, right, so somebody's done something and they go, I wasn't here, I was abducted at that time.
Yeah. I think it's a bit of an extreme case, but
you know what I'm trying to say. But once you open up that realm of everything's possible, right, then you can't. Some of these policing.
I think it's a big thing about paying taxes. Would you pay your taxes and say, well, how much of that money goes to the military? This much, a third. All right, okay, but you can't stop the aliens coming in and abducting my children. I'm not paying my taxes then. Right, so the big question is then, I think there's some sort of disclosure coming, but I've been talking a lot in the last 6 months about. I feel there's like we're walking into a trap. That the Tic Tac video's been released, and then we see things like the Salvatore patent. Go back and look at our video on him. And it just feels like there's a trap being set up there. They're just going to go, actually, no, this is man-made. It was a weather balloon.
Just feel like that, doesn't it? Yeah.
But it does feel like there's some sort of disclosure coming. So, and I think there's different types of disclosure. The Americans could come out and say, not only is this alien, and we don't know what it is. Actually, they've been visiting forever, potentially thousands of years. We're talking ancient astronaut theory. Again, the Americans would know. They could admit, yes, actually, the Vatican does have records that go back 3,000 years on alien abductions, alien interventions. They could go all out, and tell us everything. They could say there are these vehicles. We think they're the Chinese. And then trigger, and then you actually use that information. It's like trigger a new military race, or they could do something in between.
You're never going to get a spokesperson standing up and openly admitting that they've been lying to us. All you're going to do is just get drip fed little bits of more information here and there. Yes, it does feel like it's a trap though. So I go back to that Werner von Braun warning us that after the Cold War and then the religious fanatics, they're then going to use a fake alien invasion to herd the masses. So just watch out for that if it does come, because it's probably not coincidence that Werner von Braun warned us about this.
If Project Bluebeam though is a genuine plan, they're going to fake an alien invasion. Isn't the first step of that admitting that aliens are visiting Earth? Isn't the first step to say, yes, actually those UFOs are real? And it is alien technology, and we don't know what they are.
So people are very worried if they do come out with a spokesperson on the news and tell you that aliens are real, because that means that the fake alien invasion's coming. It's not far around the corner.
That's the next step. I was talking to somebody about the fake invasion, though, and he said, well, the Chinese and the Russians wouldn't go for it. They'd know it was fake. I was going to say the only way this Project Bluebeam fake invasion works is basically if the Americans have got enough fake UFOs so they can attack the world. They need to attack everybody, and they need to probably kill millions for it to work. We always seen, Independence Day. It needs to be that sort of level of attack. It can't be just something you see on the news. Everybody needs to be affected by it. And then the Americans come in and save the day. And I think that's the point. The Americans come in and save the day. And then they will set themselves up as the world police. They'll set themselves up as a world government. And it'll be these people. They'll call themselves something else. Yeah. But it'll be these people. That's the only way that works, though, is if millions die.
Yeah, but what the way that kind of does work, though, is because if you think about like the communist countries, China and Russia and all of that, they very much adopted capitalism, haven't they, in recent years, right? Because what they realised was that you can pretend to have this thing called democracy. Well, not so much China, but you can pretend to, or Russia really, but you can pretend to have a democracy where it's really a corporate dictatorship, where all the money just funnels to the few elites at the top. And if the few elites at the top keep quiet about it and just keep going to the bank, then it doesn't matter. You can call it what you want to call it. And I think that's what they've done. And then there's this almost like this second tier society where it's the elites
the Chinese
of the world.
Are capitalists. They've got the best of both worlds. They have capital. They have communism to control their people, and capitalism to get themselves all very wealthy. What's that got to do with disclosure, though? What's that got to do with what we're talking about?
Well, I was just saying that it's a super elite that have all the money.
All you've got to do is have them in your pocket.
They're the ones that will be pushing for this one world government, aren't they? Essentially, to control the rest of the people. When you've got more money than you can spend,
all you need is to make sure they're in the pocket, and they know that when the new world order comes, they're going to be at the table.
They're going to be they're at the table, aren't they? They're at the So that's why I don't. That's why I think it's like it transfers from country to country. It's because there's this like super elite around the world that's really they don't really even swear allegiance to perhaps the country they live in or even born in. A lot of them are really international businessmen that are hopping from country to country all the time. If you ask them, the international bankers, they don't see themselves as a particular country,
nation. It's almost company first. Company, nation, God, sort of thing.
Well, yeah, they don't buy into that patriotism that they feed to the rest of the lower end of society, because they're not. They're free. They travel wherever they want, do what they want, have businesses in different countries. They have no restrictions on what they can do.
No, I see your point. Yeah, and those are the people you need to have, and those are the people that need to be at the table when this all ends. But like I said, I mean, the Russian and Chinese government would have to toe the line if 1 million people were killed in Moscow and 2 million people died in Beijing. They can't then go, the Americans are faking it. They would have to toe the line. Because if the Americans had total power, they can kill, basically, they can attack whoever and whatever they want. No one's going to argue with that. The Russians and Chinese would toe the line anyway. They'd have no choice.
Probably, to some extent, as long it'd all be about the deals that the elites make. At the Bilderberg group meetings and other retreats that they attend, and Heme and Grow,
exactly.
That's what I think. Some of the discussions perhaps go on there.
So if we get full disclosure, we should all panic. Do you actually think that's likely though? Because I think we're going to get a lesser thing. I think they're going to tell us something, because they've got to. The mainstream media and Fox News are talking about this almost every night. They're saying it's time for the truth. It's time for the truth. The mainstream media aren't going to let it go. As soon as the mainstream media start talking about it, something's got to be appeased.
Yeah,
and enough people believe it.
It worries me that the mainstream media in America are talking about it so much, but there's so much CIA infiltration of the American mainstream media. The amount of news anchors that have ex-CIA pass is phenomenal. So that leads me to it's the fake alien invasion coming, and there will be some kind of disclosure given on the news.
That's worrying, yeah.
So if that happens,
drip feeding us with movies and TV shows and things like this, and now it's actually getting into. They mocked aliens and UFOs for a long time because they wanted us to think it was silly, but now it's actually becoming like real. It's becoming The next thing though is. Sorry, I think there's a lot of shouting going on.
Perhaps it's always been real, and their campaigns of ridicule have
on purpose
made real experiences be ridiculed and shunned into the annals of crazy people rather than the true experiences that they were. Betty and Barney Hill. There's a prime example of a case, isn't there, that has all the ringings about it of being true.
We have to do that at some point. We've never actually talked about Betty and Barney Hill, but I think we're going to get something. At the end of the day, they're going to want to control the narrative, and I think the narrative has got away from them in the last 10 years, and that's why they're with the emergence of the internet and broadband. I think people are actually talking to each other. Images have started to appear that are genuine. I think the American CIA and whatever are partly responsible for how much nonsense we have and how many crap CGI fake videos we have on the internet.
I think the internet probably destroyed their ability to retrieve most of the evidence and hide it and control it. So I think for the last 20 years, they've probably been struggling to continue the program that they've been successfully doing up to the end of the 90s, when the internet really was fast enough that everybody could chat globally and share pictures, videos.
Exactly.
We've only had that for 20 years.
So that's what I think. That's what I think when I say I think there's a trap coming. I think this is all a very orchestrated, very well planned way of them retaking the narrative. So I think we're going to be told something, and I think it would be very difficult for them to say it was a weather balloon. Then or a modern version. They're not going to say weather balloon. Obviously, they're going to say some sort of modern version. There's going to be some other lie that they'll think. They can't say the Tic Tac video was something else. They can't say it was a weather balloon. They can't say it was a light anomaly. They can't say it was like swamp gas bounce up. They can't say it. I think they'd struggle to say it's a Chinese drone. We've got video last week filmed from the USS Omaha, and these drones swarming battleships, and then Navy personnel saying it's a regular occurrence. This happens all the time. it's going to be very difficult for them to say anything other than this is potentially either that they don't know, but that will freak people out, or it is alien technology, which will freak people out. But actually, I think less than they think. I think they've been setting us up for this for a long time. And I think most people will just go, yeah, we knew it. You know, and I actually don't think people will freak out anymore. I don't think it will be the end of religion and whatever else.
No,
because they've been preparing us for decades.
Well, yeah, the thing that they probably, I suppose, that's preventing them is I suppose the population's disdain for politicians and government is pretty high in probably America and a lot of Europe. There's been a lot of rioting over a lot of different issues in a lot of places. Yeah, and with that, will that kind of disclosure disillusion people even more and stop them bothering to do the fake voting in the elections, you know, that supposedly holds up the democracies that run the world, and you know, and you start getting reductions in turnouts for elections everywhere. No one cares anymore.
No, exactly. Well, the main thing is something is going to happen. We're going to be told something in the next month. That's exciting. So let's see what it is.